here in the northwest position as the red Protoss. He's up 1 game. It is SKMC. And in the southeast position as the blue Protoss. See if we can see his true power in this game. It's CJ's hero.
First game was very short, as djwheat had mentioned at the end of it. We have cast 4 PvPs so far, and
so far
3 out of the 4.
About
30
minutes, 35 minutes.
It's been very effective. The German audience is quite proud of this series, or the PvP series so far. Gateway's going down at 13 supply. That's worth noting. It can be 12 or 13 supply. 12 does suggest a little bit more urgency towards getting towards perhaps some form of a gateway timing. But again, because 4-gate takes more of a backseat in Heart of the Swarm, you'll start to see more liberties being taken with any kind of macro-oriented decisions. So a lot of times your Chrono Boost, again, in Wings of Liberty, saved up after 2 for things like Warp Gate upgrade or perhaps a Chrono Boost units off that gateway to try and achieve some kind of timing. Nowadays, it's more probe-oriented, allowing for a stronger mid-game, but less emphasis on the early game. Of course, MC did prescribe to that necessarily in the previous game, but that is one of the trends.
Looking at just some of the differences in the builds that we're seeing right now, it looks like Hero's turn to go ahead and take 2 gases. He's only going to put 2 into the second gas, but there the Psy-Core goes down on both sides, and there we do see MC throwing down his second a little bit later. But really, there's the only big deviation between these two so far. We're going to have MC sending out scouting probe first.
Well, you know, it's interesting you had mentioned the 2 probes on gas, which now we see 3 on each, but that's new. I'm telling you, like a lot of times the double gas would go down before Cybernetics Core, but you'd have 2 on each until you hit 16 on the mineral line, and then you'd start putting the 17th and 18th probe on those. Well, what would have been the 17th and 18th probe on the minerals on those gases to get the 3-3 saturation. But again, because he's not as fearful of gateway timings, he's going to go ahead and emphasize the gas this way. MC is going to scout in. Worth noting as well is that Hero is not scouting, so that might be one of the reasons why we're seeing a Sentry coming off, but also a Chrono Boost on said Sentry. And there's the Stargate.
Yeah, it goes down, of course, after that probe has already decided to get out of there. And, you know, is Hero going to go for something similar? Is he going to try to change it up? We'll find out once that guy completes.
Yeah.
Over on MC's side, as he throws his Chrono Boost down onto that Cybernetics Core.
Ooh.
I'm curious what MC sort of has planned here, especially because he didn't get, I think, the information, of course, he would have liked to.
Yeah, a couple interesting things going on here. It looks like MC is going to do a 2-gate expand off the backs of 2 sentries, which is very odd. I'll go into that in a second, but also skipping the Mama Core altogether. So the reason that's a big deal is because if he did expand it from this point, he wouldn't have, well, there's the Mama Core, but he'd have less energy on said Mama Core for the Photon Overcharge to defend that expansion. The reason why these sentries are weird is look at that ramp at the natural. I mean, that's a 4... That's like a,
it's a big old ramp.
Perfectly placed 3 force fields, but probably 4. And right now things are looking good for Hero. I was going to say, I want to talk about this. He's going Phoenix. I love that. That is him saying, hey, I dare you to go Oracle. Because opening Phoenix actually hard counters the crap out of an Oracle. It'll get like 2 probe kills and then die for the very much so a good cost for the Phoenix. But then they have the Stargate advantage. They're going to just have more Phoenix.
Now, I love this. Hallucinate the Phoenix, send it over. Opponent's like, oh, look, I hallucinate Phoenix. Next time he sees that Phoenix, is it hallucinated? No, it's not. It's actually real.
Mind games.
It is some mind games coming out here. But the hallucinated Phoenix sees the robotic facility go down. Most importantly, though, he saw, at least I want to make sure that he did. Yeah, he did see that Nexus, of course.
Yeah, and you can see Hero's going to go down the middle of the map with these Phoenix actually also moving out with his army, but that's just to secure his expansion spot. So he will expand later, but tech-wise, he is advantaged tremendously. This Robo, not a big deal. Anti-air, 3 sentries, and a Stalker. So there's a really good chance we're going to see some sentries die here if Hero goes right for that ramp.
Yeah, and I think he is going to go.
No, he doesn't want it.
Wow.
Photon Overcharge, okay.
And that was just perfect. I mean, literally, he had 104, 105 energy, so that timed out quite good for MC. Phoenixes can come over. The best thing they can do right now. Oh, hold on. He's going to try to go back in. Not even willing to. Oh, now there's 4, though.
Yeah.
He's absolutely going after those. With only 1 Stalker there, now a second one. All 3 of those sentries go down. And I think
really
that's most certainly a victory for Hero.
Yeah, these are not your grandma's Phoenixes. In the Wings Liberty, they had one less range, which makes a huge difference. Nowadays, they can get in there and do more. Good focus fire from MC, and again, the Photon Overcharge bought him enough time to realize he's facing Phoenix, warp in additional Stalkers, and then go ahead and make sure that they don't do too much damage. We do see Blink going down for MC as well. That's the best in a bad situation, but what should happen here is Hero should stop making Phoenix after perhaps this 5th one and start making Void Rays. And I don't care how many Stalkers you have against 3 or 4, well, I guess that's a little bit too much of an exaggeration, but Void Rays do tons of damage to Stalkers, and that is going to be the better tech choice.
And he is going to at least pump out 1 more Phoenix here. Actually, 2 more. No, he decides to throw it out and even Chrono Boost. I mean, he's going very, very heavy.
And a Robo. So, I mean, we should see Immortals, again, as the answer to those Stalkers. As he sees, I mean, right now, maybe it's not known to him that he's facing Blink, but the second you see, like, 8 Stalkers, you're like, okay, well, I'm facing Blink. I need Immortals, and I probably need Void Rays.
He's going to be able to one-shot this Mama Core if he really wants to. A couple lobbies, or a couple lobs. Now, he did fly over the Twilight Council.
He might be able to fight the Stalkers. I don't know. He's a little bit hesitant, but actually, maybe not 4 Stalkers, but it's getting pretty close. Great focus fire by MC trying to get down that Phoenix count. He might get it on this pass. No, they're just too fast. It's our own version of a speed medevac.
Pretty great. So right now, we've got, 7 Phoenix out for Hero. MC really in the process of defending. We take a look just at the economy. You know, based off of a little bit of harass, you'd think, oh, probably a decent probe lead for Hero, but it's not that large. Only about 3 probes right now. He did kind of focus on some of the gas probes at first, but this large Phoenix force is going in yet again.
Yeah.
And he's definitely being cautious with these, which...
Yeah, he's all the way up to 8 Phoenix, and now come the Void Rays. And you know what? I like Mass Phoenix. Again, they're much more powerful than they used to be. It's just that I feel like he achieves the same with these 8, now 7 Phoenix, losing that one to Great Focus Fire again from MC, that he would with like 4 or 5, to be honest with you. And again, we're talking about how, okay, well, when they fight, the Phoenix will pick up Stalkers, they'll pick up Zealots, they'll pick up whatever, you know. They're going to contribute that way, losing again another Phoenix here. But I just feel like the Void Rays they have such a better transition because, yeah, you'll use the Void Rays to defend the Stalker timing, but then they transition to the late game better because that's what Void Rays are. They're the late game composition these days in PvP.
Oh, they're coming yet again. The Stalkers are waiting. There's the blink. 1 does go down.
Look at this. MC is forcing Hero to do exactly what I wanted him to. But he's supposed to have more Void Rays.
Yeah, there's only 1 out right now, or is there 2? The second one's on its way?
I think the second one's on its way, yeah.
So 2 out. The Phoenix is having a much more difficult time finding any sort of area of attack here on MC's base. And right now, we have seen MC kind of fall behind in the probe count overall, but that is partially due to the increased harassment that we've seen. These Stalkers are on the hunt for those Phoenix. He's really trying to sneak in here. Hallucinated Phoenix comes out, and there we see the Templar Archives going down now, along with Charge being researched for MC.
You know, that's interesting because I was looking at MC, he was warping in Zealots. That's usually the kind of stuff you start warping in as you're about to move out, but I think he's just, I mean, MC is MC. He knows stuff that the rest of us just simply don't, but what he's basically saying is, I know that there's Void Rays and Immortals coming out, and if I keep warping in Stalkers, I'm going to feed right into that composition. That's just his instinct. He says, okay, I'm going to transition to Charge Lot Archon and hope that I'm facing a hard, like, 6 Void Rays, 6 Immortals, which aren't necessarily as good for their cost against a Charge Lot Archon composition.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm just... I mean, we're seeing MC extend himself out just a little bit here. And I like this because obviously he has the ability to disengage with the blink. The Phoenixes, because the numbers have lowered, I mean, look at the hesitation of Hero just to go in the main base. In fact, this is the first time in a while that he's now going to make his way back in here. Sees those 4 Stalkers immediately, like, don't want anything to do with it. Now, both players beginning to establish their third base, but we're actually going to go into... late game here. Photon Overcharge to try to get rid of those Phoenixes again. He just chases them out.
Yep. He does get the Mama Core, which is nice. It was full energy.
Yeah.
For its cost, though, not a big deal, and it doesn't take too long for it to get that full energy. And again, with Charge on the way, but now kind of just now started, I don't think that that's the biggest of deals. Another Phoenix goes down, and now they're all in trouble, actually.
That was really, really smart by MC. In fact, he lets the blink cool down, allow him to possibly get another one. Yes, only 2 Phoenixes left. It's some great usage of a split army consisting of Stalkers. He had the one little set go below the natural, and the other one go to the Xel'Naga Tower. And I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better.
And right there is the last kill. Those 2, I mean, maybe they go in the middle line and just sack themselves. They should do. There is no worse feeling than having made like 8 Phoenix and then now being down to 2. But I guess I need to, I don't know, kind of follow that point up with saying it's terrible earlier on. At this point, it's actually okay. It's like, all right, I don't necessarily need the Phoenix. I would have liked to have had him. But look at this army moving over here. That's a lot of charge lots. Not a lot of Stalkers. Look at the army of Hero. Yes, Void Rays do pack a wallop, but if they're not hitting armored units, it's not nearly as scary. And he's moving out.
Oh,
this couldn't be worse for Hero.
And he's just gonna blink. Perfect disengage. I mean, if the Zealots were behind him and they would have like swallowed them in their charginess, then it would have been really bad for sure.
They were coming out, and I was sure this was going to be bad. And here he is. It's like, Nair, I want you to die later. Here I go.
However, look at CJ Hero's army position right now. The Zealots are going to get in and be able to block while the rest of the Stalker's going to go in there, attack the third. Now they're going to be running out, and he will go ahead and engage and attack. We see the Time Warp throw down, and there's the Storm. Storm's on top of the Immortals. Get rid of those shields. There's still quite a few Zealots left, but there's so many stuck on the back line. There we have another Warp in. These Immortals still high up, no shields. Their heart shields are down, but they still have quite a bit of health left. And Hero decisively wins that battle. Only Zealots left over. I cannot believe all those Immortals actually survived. Uh-oh.
Fantastic focus fire right there. If those Immortals go back and recharge their shields, I don't care if they're in red health. They're as good as new.
Right, exactly.
But that battle should have been a win for MC, except for you made a beautiful point when you said, look where he's engaging from. Coming around the bow, hitting a chunk of Zealots for free, essentially, and then being allowed to cast force fields against those Zealots, holding them out of the battle. I mean, forget the Stalkers; they're gonna die. They're doing battle with Immortals and Void Rays, but without having to deal with the brunt of those Zealots, that was the best engagement possible for Hero. And I think the one big misstep we saw from MC there was not including Archons, because if he's able to trample the force fields, those charge lots tear apart that ground army.
And that was a bit surprising. Instead, we saw, the Storms go down on top of the Immortals, try to get rid of those shields before the engagement, got to that meat of the army. But having a follow-up Archon there to break down the force fields, like you said, would just be, would have been a totally different situation. So, I mean, great job by CJ Hero here. Let's give him that credit, because I didn't think he was going to be able to necessarily hold off depending on the position, but he just came out of that one looking so good.
He did, and again, you're absolutely right. The correct engagement is how he won that fight. It's not just A move versus A move. I think if that were to have happened in an open field, MC would have outmaneuvered him there. I would like to see Hero get rid of these 2 Phoenix. They're just a waste of supply at this point. Of course, he's not maxed yet, so it's not the biggest of deals, but it's, I don't know, me nitpicking, I suppose. Look at Hero, though. He's going to move out here. He's got Observer spotting. He's going to go for the Zealots. Actually, of course, MC proves me wrong. Even just getting off those feedbacks is potentially one less Storm in this battle. He's in position. There's a massive warp in. The Stalkers of MC have spotted this, though. They're doing battle with the Zealots, but they're going to take that elsewhere, and here comes the big fight.
Oh, big fight, and you know what? MC is going to be trapped in the back with those Time Warps. It doesn't matter. Hero moving forward. The Void Rays basically have no real answer, but the Photon Overcharge is what is going to help MC out the most. Now the Storms on the retreat and the defensive shots. And I think he's going to go back in here. A huge warp in of Zealots from the back. Now look at the army supply, 130 to 103 right now, but more importantly, right here at the third, a few Stalkers, a couple of High Templar. They do have Storms, and then of course the Archons. But the defense with that planetary, or with that Photon Overcharge, that really helped out considerably there for MC.
One of the big storylines that's really aiding MC here is that he's able to chop down that Void Ray count, because they exponentially get more and more powerful. We're going to have another engagement over here. Immortals are being isolated, though, and that's not good for their costs. Of course, getting some damage in on those Stalkers was nice, but then dying in the back there, not as good. And MC has the army to chase. If these Stalkers decide they should be able to give pursuit to these Immortals, of course, it's a little bit like chasing a Bulldog. At some point, they might turn around and bite you, but here's that bite, and it's not good. The Archon is able to get that damage in, and they're going to die.
For as many Immortals that were saved earlier in that battle. To see those fall,
Yeah.
I think, is actually quite unfortunate for Hero. I feel like adding a few extra Archons is going to be his way of sort of responding to that. There's still a couple of High Templar here for MC, but that army he attacked with is a bit thin. Now here come the reinforcing Zealots. He wants to go back in. I think it's a smart move because he knows that at least he's done some damage to Hero.
MC wants to engage soon. He was down 30 and even 40 supply 2 battles ago. Now he's actually the guy with the supply advantage because he's piling it on pretty thick here. These Void Rays not nearly as big of a deal against that Charge Light Archon composition. Storm moving in to peel off the shields from these units. Not as many Stalkers. Bomb Ship, of course, been made available here as well. It's going to go forward. One Storm was let off from those 2 Templars, but the Charge Lot's very powerful. It's all about positioning. I think Hero might actually be in trouble. He's not down a lot of supply. He's going to pull back, and MC wants to fight in the open field to get those Zealots around that army.
Yeah, and I mean, with the run back here by Hero, he's obviously giving some free damage, but I'm not sure. He's just trying to get a position that he's going to be comfortable with. And there's a lot of charge lots there, Jeff.
Yeah.
I got it. Keep in mind, they are just +2 attack charge lots right now.
First +3 of Hero.
Right. There's the time warp right at the bottom of the ramp. Oh, a couple of Archons get stopped by those charge lots. And, I mean, the Void Rays in the back, they're going to charge up. They haven't taken any damage yet, but unfortunately, the Archons of MC are overrunning. There's the blink inside once he knows it's safe. Those Void Rays are going to go down. And despite a back-and-forth battle here, Jeff, we saw a killer PvP, and it's MC who comes out on top. GG.
This guy.